Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. In order to understand my martial art victory and how it connects to the idea of the greatest victory, and how the Bible supports this if you do your due diligence, you need to understand Proverbs 24:21, Proverbs 16:12, Isaiah 1, and Isaiah 48 to a bare minimum degree or better. In Proverbs 24:21 it says, "Fear the Lord and the King, my son, and do not join with rebellious officials." Proverbs 16:12 it says that the throne is established in righteousness. New Living Translation, justice. So I've established it in focused moral intensity. It's proven through my top martial arts challenge and my life work, what have you. Through sabotage, I persevered, I endured. Through sabotage, carrying my cross, as they say. But this is the end, where I'm clashing with the villains of this world, all who cheat me out of my right to lead. In fact, in Isaiah 1, Isaiah goes on and on chastising the Jews as a group. As a group. Did he say just the Pharisees or them, and them? He said, as a group, you are known as a brood of evildoers. And I'm not saying this to insult the Jews. These are the facts. The Bible is not pointing to the Jews as being the light of the world. It's pointing to the Messiah. The other day I was in a comment section. It was probably a Jewish person speaking to him, and he said, "No, you're not the lights of the world. You're not to be the lights of the world. There's only one light, and that's the Messiah." Like it says in the New Testament, you have one teacher, that's the Messiah. And so they're called the rulers of Sodom, people of Gomorrah in Isaiah 1, given to corruption. In Isaiah 48, he says, you have been called rebels from birth, right? You're rebelling from birth. They rebelled when they left Egypt, right? They didn't want to follow Moses. And as soon as Moses turned his back, were they masterfully coming into a moral order? No. They started worshiping the golden calf. And the message of the Bible is that that's the nature of people, and in that case of the Jews. That without a moral order, they just go into chaos. They worship whatever they can find. They start reveling. They start following Baal and Jezebel and what have you. Rebels from the start. So that's another reason I'm right that Christianity and Islam and Judaism are not strong systems. They're systems that are built on Judaism, okay, which didn't correct the people there. That is not a system that allowed for people to have no doubt in their mind that they were doing the wrong thing. It was too, Pharisee friendly, too fantasy friendly. They looked at this system and instead of discarding it, they said, we can work with this system. Where the book I made is direct and doesn't allow for that. They would look like complete idiots beyond a reasonable doubt to even a child right away. Where in their system, children are fooled. And quite often people are fooled into adulthood. At least historically. Not anymore so much these days because of technology and exactly how people are doing things. But historically, they were to some degree. Rebels from birth. And a religion that failed to correct them. As it says in the Old Testament that God is going to purge the dross. How? Well, the flesh means nothing, so God can purge the entire Jewish race and keep them from heaven, right? And still stay true to purging the dross because it's the spirit of the covenant, and who comes into the spirit is what he's referred to. When we talk about Revelation, right? The tribes, the spirit of the tribe. Keep in mind the Spirit of God has come into a donkey that has rebuked people before in the Bible. A donkey. I believe it was John the Baptist who said he could raise children for Abraham from the stones. He said, your flesh is not necessary. From these very stones, I can bring up children of Abraham. If you were the children of Abraham, you would do what he did. Those who are the family of Jesus are those who obey God's commandment, not the flesh. So when we look at the principles of victory, right? All true victories are in true, morally precise principle. And there's 3 points I want you to think about in this video, and we'll wrap it up. I was going to make this a very short video, but we'll just end with these 3 points here. Number 1, you have to consider the point of life. If you don't consider the point of life, what's the hell is the point of going to war? What's the hell the point of pursuing victory. You have to consider the point of life. Why are you here? Are you here to try to cheat me out of my right to lead? No, that's retarded. So any path that leads you to try to cheat me doesn't allow for victory. What's the point of life? Is to obey God through me. The throne is established in righteousness. Fear God and me. Fear the Lord and the King, the one who's established the throne in righteousness and justice, which is me, the true King. And do not join with rebellious officials, or you miss the point of life and you can't possibly win. It says in Proverbs, wickedness overthrows the sinner. Point number 2. The word vir means man. Vir and virtue, vir and virility. So are you manning up in this kind of spiritual virility sort of way, in this the man kind of way, if you're not virtuous? No. You're just being some kind of animal, throwing a fit, going into a fit of rage. That doesn't allow for victory. You have to be a man to win a man's victory. The spirit and to spirit. In what spirit? In the spirit of moral precision. The throne is established in righteousness. You can't be more righteous than other people without being precise to the best of your ability, or more precise than they are. Point number 3. You have to understand what a Pyrrhic victory is. What is a Pyrrhic victory? It's a victory where you lose more than you gain. For example, when America went to Vietnam, they had some initial victories, so to speak, but they're Pyrrhic. They're fighting for a corrupt nation, against a corrupt nation on a corrupt planet, for a profane cause. And eventually they, quote-unquote, lose the Vietnam War, right? The Vietnamese War. Those initial victories were part of the package deal of the defeat that they were handed. It was a Pyrrhic victory. There's a parable in the Bible where Christ talks about a king, or a story rather, where Christ talks about how a king needs to be prepared for war where it matters most, spiritually. That's what the parable's about. And needs to kind of estimate the cost and estimate the army that he's facing. And how much of a fool will he be if he takes on an endeavor that is too much for him to chew? He bit into more than he could chew. How much more is he a fool if he thinks the answer is to try to make it harder for Jesus to make his case while he's biting into more than he can chew? So you have to understand what a Pyrrhic victory is. So number 1, you have to understand the point of life. Number 2, you have to understand that vir and virtue means man. You have to be actually virtuous in reality, not Western theater arts, propaganda, psychology, what have you, but in reality. Point number 3, you have to understand what a Pyrrhic victory is. You cannot achieve a true victory against me. You say, well, we were able to, make it harder for him to talk. And there's some victory in that. Am I right, guys? Am I right? No. You're wrong. It's a Pyrrhic victory at best. It's fucking stupidity.